In the last stream, we were working our way through the end of the tier 1 questline here. We completed all 3 of the quest lines for the Magician, the Quartermaster, and the Machinist. We also spent a bit of time working our way through the Machinist Vault to get all of the Shadow Steel required for making these Shadow Casings, and right at the end of the last episode, we returned back to the Echo of Guidance to unlock a new tier in the quest book. We now have access to tier 2, and with that, we also have access to the Fabricator, the Enchanter, and the Wayfinder, which have unlocked 3 new quest lines for us, as well as 3 new shops for us to purchase items from over at Spawn. And speaking of items we can purchase, back over here, there are a few items that I have been made aware of that I think it would be useful for us to purchase. One of the first items that I think is going to be very useful for us is the feeding upgrade for our sophisticated backpack that we made in the last episode. This upgrade allows us to just put food into the backpack and then it will automatically feed us whenever we get hungry. And it turns out that we can actually buy this from the Echo of the Quartermaster. And so if we head over here and buy one of these for just 20 coins, we can then go ahead and throw that into our backpack. And now if I put our bread in here, we should see that almost immediately that bread is going to be used to keep us fully fed. Next up on the list, the Impact Core here is an item that we can buy from the Machinist. And the idea behind the Impact Core is that it is going to allow us to upgrade our pre-existing hammer. So right now this costs 20 coins. We'll go ahead and buy that. And if we press U on this, we can see that we can use this to craft up a new hammer that is going to have a higher durability. This one has 10,640 durability versus our current hammer, which only has 4,100. Also, the key difference here is that our current hammer mines in a 3x3x1 area, whereas the upgraded hammer can mine in a 3x3x3 area, meaning that it's going to break a 3 deep block at a time, which is very useful because I've been told as well, if we go over to the exploration section of the quest book, there is a quest right in the middle here called Ring Generation. In StoneBlock 4, the world is generated in rings. You spawn in a pre-generated stone ring that extends about 712 blocks out. Each subsequent ring only extends about 512 blocks. And if we click to the next page, we can see that we move from stone to deep slate to nether to end to Twilight Forest to ocean to the void chasms. And so this is kind of what the world looks like. And if we do a quick /home here and press M, we can see that we've got the stone ring. The stone ring goes out a little further than you might think. Looking at the bottom here, you can see it says Garden of Stone. And just about here, we're actually very close to it. We actually swap from stone to deep slate. And then it's going to be an extra 512 blocks after that we swap over to netherrack. We can also upgrade the Impact Core here to a reinforced core. This reinforced core is going to allow us to make an even better hammer. This one has 15,000 durability and mines in a 5x5x1 area, but we can still yet take it further to a reinforced Impact Core, which then gives us a hammer that mines in a 5x5x3 area and has 20,000 durability. And although that is going to be expensive, I do think it is potentially going to be worth the investment. I'm going to hold off on making that just yet though, because another thing that I would like to work on here is I would like to work on our storage situation. Specifically over here in the sophisticated storage section of the storage quest line, there is a quest for creating storage networks. It says if you want to connect all of your storage into a single network, this can easily be done by making the storage controller. Any storage container that is placed next to the controller will automatically link to it. This allows you to item dump by right-clicking or sneak right-clicking on the controller for easy inventory management. Note the storage controller requires the machine block world upgrade to craft. We've already done the machine block world upgrade, and so we should be able to craft this fairly easily. And so in order to actually make this, I'm going to first unbookmark some of the stuff that we don't need bookmarking here because we have kind of run out of space, especially when we're in our crafting station. But the storage controller is made with 4 steel plates, 1 deposit upgrade, and 1 diamond. The deposit upgrade looks pretty straightforward, although it would seem that we are actually missing 1 string if we want to be able to make that happen. We do, however, have some hemp seeds in here, and so I think, if I'm not mistaken, we should be able to do something like this and shift to grow the hemp, and then I believe we can craft 3 hemp directly into one stream. We totally can. And I'm assuming as well that this also works in terms of activating our agronomic source link to give us a little bit of extra source inside of our jar, which will come in useful later on down the line. Back over here, though, we now have everything to make the deposit upgrade, and so now we just need 1 diamond and 4 steel plates. Over here, we do have 32 steel dust ready to go, and so it should just be as simple as placing 4 of those into here and then pulling those out in plate form, and then, of course, grabbing just 1 diamond. And once we have our 4th steel plate, we should be able to head on through to the world engine and put all of this together. I say that real quick. I am going to go ahead and steal the basic energy cube just in case we do need a little bit of energy to make this happen. If we go boom, boom, and boom, it turns out we do need energy and we don't have enough. So we are going to have to place this guy down. That, I'm hoping, is enough energy to actually make the storage controller. It totally is. And so now we should be able to take this back and use it to connect our storages together. So the idea here is that I want to put this down next to our crafting station, and then any other inventories that we connect to the storage controller should then allow the crafting station here to access all of the items in those connected inventories in the same way that we're currently doing with our crystal barrels and our diamond chest. Now, to do that, I might have to move this pre-existing chest here, which is going to spew some items, but I think is probably going to be worth it. One other nifty feature, though, of the controller are these storage links. You'll see it says here, this connects separate multi-blocks of storages to the controller. Use the storage tool to link to the controller. And so if I'm not mistaken, the idea with this is that we could place the storage link, for example, onto this chest, and then use the storage tool to link that storage link to our storage controller, and that then should give this crafting station access to all of the items inside of this diamond chest, meaning that whenever we need to craft something with redstone or diamonds or lapis or emeralds or coal or whatever it is, we don't have to come back to this chest to manually grab the items. We can just go ahead and shift click the recipes in. The only slight downside to using the storage controller is that I'm fairly certain this only works with inventories from the sophisticated storage mod. The good news is that I believe we do have 2 chests in here. We do. We've got 1 iron chest and 1 gold chest. And so we are probably going to want to replace the crystal barrels that we have here, but we should be able to replace them fairly easily with gold versions of these chests. In fact, if I put both of these down, just like we did previously, we should be able to get a gold to diamond upgrade and use that to convert our pre-existing gold chest into a diamond chest, and then we can do the same here. We can make an iron to diamond upgrade to convert our iron chest. And once we have the gold to diamond tier upgrade, we can also craft an iron to gold tier upgrade and then upgrade that to iron to diamond. And with that, we should be able to do something like this and like this to give us a bunch of space. And so now I'm going to go ahead and kind of move all of the stuff from our central chest here over into one of these other chests. By the way, spacebar, left click. If you hold down spacebar and then press left click, it will fill your inventory, and then you can spacebar, left click again to dump all the items out, just a little bit faster than trying to take everything out the old-fashioned way. And so with that, I'm hopeful now that we can go ahead and grab the controller that we just made, place that down right about here, and now you'll see at the top there that this has access to the items in the adjacent chests. And so we should be able to shift-click recipes in from anything in these 2 chests, and for now we can even leave these crystal barrels here because these are also still connected to the crafting station, and going forward we can just add more chests next to, I believe, the pre-existing chests to give this even more capacity. Now, if we wanted to connect this guy up, we do indeed need to get the storage link and the storage tool. Both of those are going to require an ender pearl. Right now, we actually don't have any ender pearls. We've got 2 options, though, if we wanted to get ender pearls. Those are either going back to our quote-unquote mob farm, which does exist behind the smeltery here. We have that single block of dreadful dirt, which is passively summoning mobs. Alternatively, if we wanted to make things a little bit faster, I do believe we can now buy ender pearls from the Echo here. We can. It is going to cost us 90 coins, but we do have over 400 of them, and so I do think it's probably going to be worth the investment. Never mind, I have been bamboozled. When you hover over this, it says random teleporter, and if we hold shift, this gives us a random item. This is not an ender pearl. We got a temp pad, which is actually really useful, and we got a teleport staff. Neither of those are ender pearls, though, and so it looks like we are indeed going to have to go back to our mob farm if we want to actually look at getting an ender pearl. Speaking of the mob farm, we could look at getting more dreadful dirt if we wanted to do that, we would have to get some GM chicken feed. This right here is also purchased from the Echo of the Enchanter, which I think we do now have access to. And so if we quickly head back, we should be able to go to the Echo of the Enchanter. And in here, we can't buy the GM chicken feed until we complete the first quest, which is to get an Echo shard. And so I guess for the time being, we're going to go /home, and we're going to try and get an Enderman with the pre-existing setup that we have, which should be fairly doable. We have already seen a few Endermen spawn. We just didn't get any Ender Pearls. It is a 50% chance, I believe, to get an Ender Pearl from an Enderman, and so I'm hopeful that it shouldn't take us too long here to get 2 Ender Pearls. So here, of course, as we were doing before, we can use the lever down here to kind of force this to summon a mob more quickly. That does work, but it does mean we have to kind of come down, click the lever a few times, come back up, fight whatever mob has arrived, and it might well be quicker and easier if we get some kind of timer or clock that's going to allow us to actually kind of trigger this whilst we're not stood there. And so real quick, if we head back through here, we should be able to craft up this redstone clock here from the utilitarian mod. It just requires 1 chiseled stone brick, which we can make from regular stone. It turns out we actually don't have any regular stone. That would be far too easy, but we do have some in here. Fantastic. Let's do something like this. Then let's go ahead and do something like this, and this, and this. Cool. And so if I go ahead and throw this down on the bottom here, I believe that is going to go ahead and give a continuous redstone pulse to this. You can right-click here to change the clock frequency. I think it started at like 20. If you shift right-click, it goes up faster. And if you go all the way up to the top, which is 100, it then loops back down to 5. So 5 is the lowest. I'm also being told that maybe we could have just put a lever down and left the lever on, and that might have also worked. I'm actually not sure, but you'll see this has caused a lot more mobs to spawn in, and we do in fact have an Enderman in there as well. And so I'm really hoping here that we do get at least 1 Ender Pearl from this Enderman. Ideally though, if we want to make both the storage link and the storage tool, we are going to need 2 Ender Pearls. And there we go. Not too long later, we have 2 Ender Pearls, and so now we should be able to head back and link all of this up. So if I were to go ahead and craft up the storage tool, boom, and the storage link, this is going to require a redstone repeater. That seems like it should be very straightforward, especially now that we have the stone on us. Let's do 1 of these, and boom, we get a storage link. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I'm assuming that we can just do something like this and place that on here. And then with this, we can use that to link this together. So it says unlinking from controller, linking to controller. That's what I want to do. If I right click that on here, that links that up, and that now shows that as being connected. And so my question is that now available? Let's see. We, by the looks of it, don't have any redstone in any of these drawers. Let me just quickly double check that we do indeed have no redstone. We don't. We do have a bit of redstone in our inventory. I'm going to dump that into this chest, and then over here, if I click in a recipe for a redstone block, heck, if I shift click in a recipe, it pulls in all of the stacks of redstone from our other chest. Nice. And so if we go ahead and put those back, which I think it just did, I'm wondering as well if we don't want to move this and put another sophisticated chest here. Let me quickly try and make another sophisticated chest, place it here, and then see if that gives us access to what's in here as well. Of course, this chest is also full, so we could also do with making a stack upgrade for the sophisticated chest that we put here to allow it to store even more stuff so that we don't fill up and then backlog our system like we've done already. And again, not too long later, I've gone ahead and made another one of these sophisticated storage chests and upgraded it to diamond. It turns out we actually didn't need the storage link at all. It turns out that if you just take the storage tool here, you can right-click on the controller, that puts it in linking to controller mode, and then you can just right-click on any sophisticated storage chest, and that will link it directly. We've already linked this here. You'll see I've taken away the storage link, and it just works. And so now over here, we should have access to everything in this chest, as well as everything in this chest for our crafting purposes, which is just going to make crafting that much easier. Speaking of which, we can now pivot back to making this diamond reinforced impact hammer. For that, we need 3 blocks of diamond, which we should be able to do. We totally can. And we should also be able to go ahead and put those back as well. We can. And then from there, we need to, of course, upgrade our impact core. So we have the regular impact core. To upgrade it, we're going to need 2 blocks of gold, and then on top of that, we also need 6 blocks of redstone. That should be everything that we need to upgrade from the impact core to the reinforced core, and then if we want to upgrade that to the reinforced impact core, we just need another 6 blocks of redstone, and with that, that should be everything we need to upgrade again, and then from there, it's just 3 blocks of diamond to make the diamond reinforced impact hammer. And it's at this point that the tempad here is also actually going to come in quite useful for us, because the way this works, you can right click to open the interface, and in here you can add new locations. For example, if we add a location called home, we can now, anywhere in the world, right click the tempad, click home, click teleport, and it will open a familiar portal. That in and of itself is not particularly useful because of course we already have that in our action pad. The way it actually becomes useful though is that we can put those down anywhere we like. And so now we've got quite the trek to get to our current endpoint on this mining tunnel. We've got to walk like 600 blocks to get over to here. Once we get there though, we can use our hammer to mine even more quickly than we've been mining before out into the distance, and we can also use our tempad to very quickly teleport back and forwards to any preset location that we add to the tempad. And about 40 minutes later, once we actually get to the end of the tunnel, now we can start mining much more quickly with our new hammer. And as soon as we get to this point here, we can go ahead and use our tempad to set a new location. So I'm going to call this Deep Slate Ring and click done. And so now we should be able to teleport back to the Deep Slate Ring at any point in the future. Even better, I believe now that we have passed stone and onto Deep Slate, we should be able to use Ultimine. And so if we go, for example, to large tunnel like that, that allows us to dig out even more at once. And so I guess now there are 2 things we should do. One, we should do a /home because we should make sure that we have some torches with us. We should also make sure that we are carrying our pocket storage around, because without it, our inventory does very quickly fill up with all kinds of junk. We should also make sure, of course, that we have a slot for cobbled deep slate, because we're about to get an awful lot of cobbled deep slate in our inventory. But real quick, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to do even more mining to get us through to the netherite ring of the world. Also, it turns out here that using the small tunnel instead of the large tunnel is surprisingly better for this, because it actually does a huge area all at once. It goes 64 blocks out in the 5x5 area and gives us just a ton of tunnel space all at once. And just like that, we've actually managed to get to the netherrack ring surprisingly quickly using that Ultimine setup. And so here, we've got a couple of things. We do have some chests, which is interesting. We also have a bunch of netherrack as well, which is also very useful. So here, this is going to be the same kind of minigame that we were playing previously. And just like before, we are trying to hit all of these, ideally while it's not moving. And we also want to make sure that we do this without losing too many lives, which I'm, of course, not doing a very good job of. We do have a lockpick back at home, which would also make this way faster. And this was probably the better way of us getting ender pearls if we wanted them as well, because already there are 10 ender pearls in that chest, which is fantastic. Real quick, let's go ahead and put down another tempad location here. New location. We'll call this one Nether Ring. Click done. And so let's do a home teleport. And then from there, let's see. We should have some of those lockpicks from before. We do. We might just have the one, but even the one there should allow us to very easily open that chest that was right next to us and get the full loot that we would get, because you get less loot every time that you lose a life, and so we get better stuff doing it like this, as you can see from everything that we've just acquired right there, including an Eye of Ender, which is also going to be pretty useful because that allows us to kind of skip trying to get blaze powder in order to craft anything with the Eye of Ender. I do see a spawner over here. I'm going to go ahead and kind of get rid of that straight away. We might need a wither skeleton spawner at some point in the future, but I'm assuming that more of them will exist around here. Never mind, we even got 6 blaze rods as well from this second or third chest, and so even then we didn't need to get blaze powder anywhere. It also looks like there is ancient debris here as well that we can go ahead and harvest. That is also particularly useful because with the ancient debris, we can of course get netherite scrap. And with the netherite scrap, I believe that we can actually look at upgrading our reinforced brushes to unbreaking. It only takes 2 netherite scrap per brush to upgrade from reinforced to unbreaking, at which point they're just going to last forever. And so if we were to go ahead and get maybe like an enrichment chamber from Mekanism, we would be able to get 2 netherite scrap from each ancient debris, meaning we'd really only need to find 3 total to upgrade all 3 of our brushes, which would be pretty good. Alright, so it turns out it's a little bit dangerous over in that nether region. I did look for a bit more ancient debris, but we came across a ton of wither skeletons as well as some blazes and some piglin brutes, and so for now at least we're going to have to maybe hold off on getting the unbreaking brushes. To be fair, over here we've still got a decent amount of durability left on all 3 of our brushes, and so we really shouldn't have to worry about losing those for a little while at least. It should give us more than enough time to go back and actually get the remaining debris. Also, chat is right. We weren't even in the netherite ring. We had just entered this fortress right here. So I think what we would have needed to do is kind of go right here potentially and then up this way, because you'll see here, this is still all deep slate. According to the book, it's around 512 blocks after the deep slate is where the nether ring starts. And so the nether ring's probably actually about 1,200 blocks out, which is about here. So we would have had to go a fair bit further to actually get to the netherrack ring. The good news though is that we do already have some netherrack, and the whole reason for getting the netherrack was so that I could use our unearther to get blaze powder and also potentially netherite scrap. So there actually is some use here. If we do something like this, we can actually start unearthing this. I say that, it turns out it needs to be a dimensionalist, not an archaeologist, and so we would have to get a different villager. The dimensionalist, if we go back to the getting started quest line, is acquired by getting the resonance engineering block for the workstation. But chat is also right that we can probably just go ahead and brush the netherrack ourselves. If I were to go ahead and temporarily steal this brush here, can we do something like this? We totally can. Let's make sure we go to shapeless so we can do the whole thing at once. It is only a 20% chance, so we might need to sift a fair bit of it to have any chance of getting netherite scrap. The main reason that I wanted this, though, as I said, was to try and get blaze powder. Of course, now we already have blaze powder and blaze rod, so we don't really need to sift this for the blaze purposes, but we might as well see if we can get some of that netherite scrap. Look at that. Perfect. So we got 10 netherite scrap there, which it turns out is more than enough to upgrade our wand. To do it, we do need to either use create energy or source. So there are 2 recipes for the unbreaking brush here. Each one does use the reinforced brush that we have combined with 2 netherite scrap, and then we can either use 32 RPM of create energy or we can use 1,000 source. I think the source is going to be easier for us, and so I guess real quick what we're probably going to do now is shift over here to grow some source. I've been told, first of all, that we need to press V to re-enable our squat growth, but I've been told that the jar here can hold 10,000 source total, and again, if we look at that unbreaking brush recipe again, in order to make this, we need 1,000 source in total as well, and so we need to get our jar up to about 30% full if we want to be able to upgrade all 3 brushes to unbreaking. Alright, and not too long later, I did go ahead and throw down a few more blocks of dirt here, and of course planted some more wheat, because having more wheat does make this even faster. We've also managed to very quickly fill up our inventory with seeds and wheat, which is a good thing for us here, because we can deposit these seeds over here, and we can of course use the wheat to craft up even more bread, because our backpack has already fed us all of the bread that we put in at the start of the episode. I say that, I think we only put 8 bread in, so it wasn't really that much, and up until now, I believe we've been eating these golden apples, which isn't terrible, but is definitely not our best use of golden apples at the moment. And so let me go ahead and put those away for now. We'll also put some of this other stuff away as well to free up some inventory space. But now we should have enough sauce in this jar. And if I'm not mistaken, the jar does retain its sauce when you pick it up. It does. We are also going to need to take our Dominion wand that we got in the last episode so that we can actually link the sauce jar to the world engine to allow us to complete this craft. The final problem, though, that we're going to run into in terms of upgrading the brushes is the amount of power required. Again, if we look at the recipe here, this recipe requires almost 1,000,000 FE, and so we are going to need to get 3,000,000 FE, just shy of, if we want to be able to make the 3 unbreaking brushes. Right now, we've got 263,000, and that does kind of take me nicely onto the next thing that I did want to work on in today's stream. Real quick, though, before I do that, the Twitch chat has pointed out that there might be a better way of generating source, and that is by using Sned. Sned here is an upgraded version of Send, and if we plant that Sned down over here, let's do something like this. The idea is that we can use the snare to grow things that you would normally grow on sand faster. Specifically, you could use sugarcane or cactus. Cactus here is pretty nifty though, because cactus can kind of auto-harvest itself. Now, we do have to put this one block away actually, because you can't plant the cactus next to another block. So if we were to do maybe something like this, what we can do is grow that cactus very quickly with the snare, and if we put a block down here, that cactus is going to be automatically harvested whenever it grows, and because the snare increases the growth speed, that of course is going to go ahead and get us more source more quickly. On top of that though, what you can also do, and you'll see that's already growing surprisingly quickly, even on its own, but I believe you can also use a redstone signal to increase the speed of the snare. And so if we were to take a lever and put that here, and then we were to right click this, I think that would even further increase the speed, although it looks like that is wholly unnecessary because this is already being grown very quickly. I don't know why it stopped, but now that it's stopped, if we do this, that does increase the speed again. Interesting. And you'll see already we're up at like 50%, and so that's got us almost the same that we already had a second time over, and it took way less time. The only downside, of course, to this setup is the fact that it's going to spew cactus everywhere. We could rectify that with an item collector. The item collector here isn't too difficult to make, especially given that we got so many ender pearls from the fortress that we were in just a second ago. And so if we also got obsidian, which we did, we got some crying obsidian and some regular obsidian, we can go ahead and make a basic item collector. And then if we just place that on top of, say, a storage drawer, we should be able to start collecting all of the cactus. In fact, we could even use the storage drawer as the block that breaks the cactus. And so with that, if we do something like this, we can then put the basic item collector directly onto the storage drawer, and now you'll see that any item within a 5x5 radius is going to be picked up, and it will try and place it into here. Of course, it's only going to pick up cactus because cactus is the only thing that it can put into the connected inventory. And then finally, we should see if we can't make a void upgrade. The void upgrade here is pretty straightforward. It's 8 obsidian with 1 storage drawer, and as the name suggests, this will just void any excess cactus. So once we fill the drawer up, once it gets to 2048 cactus, any extra cactus that is made will just be deleted, preventing any spewage from happening, and we now have a very nice source of source. But as I was saying, the thing that I actually want to work on now is looking at getting started with the chickens mod, which is called Roost Ultimate, because the Roost Ultimate mod here is going to allow us to generate resources using chickens. And we already have a lava chicken here, and this lava chicken is going to allow us to produce these lava eggs, and each lava egg can smelt 100 items, making it a fantastic fuel for our coal generator or any kind of fuel powered generator we make in the future, as well as a fantastic fuel for our emerald furnace, which is also currently not working because we don't have enough coal being generated. And so the way this works, if we want to be able to actually generate these lava eggs, we need to first get a roost. The roost is kind of the easiest part of the equation. It is made by crafting 5 planks with 3 composters, and the composters are just slabs. And so real quick, if we do something like this, we can get a bunch of slabs, and we can use those slabs to make the 3 composters. And once we have those 3 composters, we should be able to make the roost, which we'll go ahead and throw down, let's say right about here. We can then put our chicken in. The next thing we need, if we want to actually start getting lava eggs, is some chicken seeds. And the chicken seed that you need depends on the tier of the chicken that you're using. Our chicken right here, you'll see, requires a tier 2 or higher seed. It says it right at the bottom of the tooltip there. And so we need to, at the very least, make a tier 2 chicken seed, which is this one right here, the blue one. To make this, you craft 4 lapis with 4 tier 1 chicken seeds and 1 chicken soul tier 2. The tier 1 chicken seeds are made with 4 wheat, 4 iron dust, and 1 tier 1 chicken soul. The tier 1 chicken soul can be made using a soul extractor. The soul extractor should be fairly straightforward for us here. We need 2 furnaces, 1 and 2. We can then dump the rest of those items back, as well as 2 bones, which we do not have yet, but we could potentially get from our mob farm, 2 glass bottles, which we can definitely make, and then finally a chicken stick wrench, which is 1 egg, 1 stick, and 1 feather. That is easy enough. And also, the chicken stick wrench here is how we can actually pick up some of our chickens. So over here, if we go and find one of our pre-existing chickens, we can right click to pick those chickens up in item form. Once we have those chickens back over here, we're going to use those chickens in the soul extractor to actually get the chicken soul. We do also need 2 regular crafting tables here. These are actually fairly straightforward. And so now the only thing we're missing is that single burn. And so real quick, I think the easiest way for us to get that is going to be by just going and fighting a few more mobs over in our mob area. And a quick bit of poisoning later and a few skeletons killed, we have all of the bones required to make the soul extractor. And so now, if we place this down, we can insert one of our chickens and then slowly but surely extract its soul. Nice. With that chicken soul, we can then upgrade to a tier 2 chicken soul by combining 250,000 FE with 3 chicken souls. So I'm actually going to have to put 2 more of those in there and 1 block of clay. The block of clay should be fairly straightforward. We have got a ton of clay available both in this chest here and also in our barrels as well. And so let's take all 3 of those. Let's take our block of clay and let's take our 250,000 FE back over to the world engine, and that should be everything we need to make our tier 2 chicken soul. Cool. So with that now, we have the ability to make our tier 2 chicken seed. We just need to get the tier 1 chicken seeds, which do require iron dust, and so I do think it's probably going to be in our best interest here to make a crusher from Mekanism so that we can actually make that happen. To make the crusher, we need 2 more basic control circuits, we need 1 more steel casing, and we need 2 buckets of lava. None of that should be very difficult for us. We, of course, have 1 bucket here, and in fact, because all of our inventories are now linked, we can just do that to get a second one. We can also grab 2 stone and then use our good friend, the entropy manipulator, to allow us to get 2 buckets of lava very quickly. Boom, 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 boom. Fantastic. And just like before, we can use redstone and osmium over in our metallurgic infuser to allow us to get the basic control circuits. And as we saw earlier in the episode, we already have some steel in dust form. All we need to do is find that steel, which I will have put into one of these chests, and then quickly pull it out in ingot form. The easiest way to do that is going to be to just put in 9 steel and then pull it out in block form. That, of course, is going to give us a block of steel that we can then turn into steel ingots. And once we have that block of steel, craft that down. Over here, we should have, at the very least, 2 basic control circuits. We do indeed, and so that should be everything. Oh, of course, apart from the steel casing, which we can now make for our crusher. Nice. We'll throw that down for now, let's say right about here. And in here, we should now be able to take some of our iron ingots, let's say 4, and throw that directly into the crusher. That's going to get us the 4 crushed iron that we need to make the chicken seeds. The good news here is that you can generate more chicken seeds by just growing them in the same way that we've been doing with wheat seeds. We don't have to keep making them this way every time going forward. And once that iron dust is done, that should be everything, I think, for the tier 1 chicken seed. Oh, we need another chicken soul. Thankfully, we did get exactly 4 chickens, and so we do have 1 left here from which we can extract 1 more tier 1 soul. Fantastic. That now actually is everything that we need for the 8 tier 1 chicken seeds. And from there, we should be able to instantly upgrade as well to tier 2 chicken seeds. And so the idea here is that we can place a tier 2 chicken seed into the roost here with our lava chicken. And then very slowly but surely, this is going to go ahead and produce 1 of these lava eggs. It does consume the chicken seed to do it. And so that's where we definitely need to set up a system to get more chicken seeds. As I mentioned a second ago, you can plant them, and then you can use the shift technique whilst holding down Ultimine and then just right-clicking to harvest basically an infinite number of these chicken seeds. That does work, but of course that is not an automated system and will not last very long if we're not there to manually do it. And so what we can also look at doing is we could also look at automatically growing these seeds using something like the garden cloche. The garden cloche here doesn't look particularly difficult for us to make. In order to get it, we would need 1 incandescent light bulb, which we can make in the engineer's workbench using the engineer's blueprint that I believe we already have. We just need 3 copper, 1 paper, and 1 glass. You can also use bamboo here instead of paper, and so with 3 bamboo, 1 glass, and 1 copper, that gets us the incandescent light bulbs. Other than that, we also need to get a basic engineering block. This is just iron and treated wood, which we have. And then finally, we also need to get an iron mechanical component, which again, we can make more efficiently using our engineer's workbench. We just need 2 iron plates and 1 copper ingot. And once we have our 2 iron plates, we can throw both of those in. with the copper to get the iron mechanical component. You can also buy these cloches, by the way. You'll see here they are purchasable from the Echo of the Fabricator for 40 coins, but given that we already had the creosote for the treated wood from Occultism and we already had the engineer's workbench down, I figured we might as well save the 40 coins and just make one the old-fashioned way. So the idea here is that we can go ahead and place this down. I'm going to put it down here because I want to be able to take the seeds that we get from this and kind of pipe them directly into the roost. In fact, I think we could probably put the roost directly on the front there and not use any item pipes. That also might work. You know what? I will give that a try, although I don't really want to break this guy's progress. He is working pretty hard. We do already have 5 lava eggs. I could go ahead, for example, and put those in here. Each one of those is going to smelt 100 items, and so that is going to last for quite some time. And of course, we can also take those eggs and place them into our fuel generator as well. And again, unlike these dark oak logs here that burn for 1.5 items, each one of these does 100 items, and so it's going to last just way longer. Back over here, though, there are a few things we need to do. We need to put in the seed. That's kind of the obvious first step. We also need to put in at least 1 dirt as well into the bottom slot. We then need to provide this with power, and we also need to provide it with an unlimited source of water. The really good news for us is that we have 3 of these pitcher plants, and the pitcher plants actually just generate water passively. They kind of work like an aqueous accumulator or like a sink if you've played with those items in the past. We are going to need to get some kind of fluid pipe. The mechanical pipe here from Mekanism is fairly easy to make. It's 2 steel and 1 bucket. And so if we take the basic mechanical pipe here, we are also going to need to get a configurator if we want to be able to use that. Thankfully, again, fairly easy. 1 steel, 1 osmium, and 2 iron. And then from there, we just need 1 more dirt. And if I am not mistaken, all we need to do is place down the dirt, let's say right about here, place down the plants like so, and then using that, we need to extract from here into here. We do have to extract to the right side though. So you know what? I know I've just rotated this. Let me rotate it again. That connects, fantastic. And here, if we shift right click and shift right click, that sets it to extract, and that just extracts water from this plant, giving us an unlimited source of water for our garden. Cloche. Nice. It's at this point where it might also not be a terrible idea for us to get another one of these simple coal generators, because we could probably just put one on top of the garden cloche here and then pipe some of the lava eggs that are made directly into that to give this a constant supply of power. And I believe that's going to generate way more power than we need to actually make these seeds. And one more simple coal generator later, we can throw this guy down, let's say right about here, and throw one of the lava eggs in. That should provide power to this, and you'll see right away now that we have provided this both water and power, it's going to start growing those seeds. You actually make quite a few of them at a time, which is fantastic. And I guess at this point, let me see if this works how I think it does. If I put this right here, that does auto eject the seeds from the cloche directly into the roost. And so we now have effectively an unlimited source of these lava eggs. All we would need to do is potentially get a storage door and potentially get some item pipes as well. Do we have any of the Orotech item pipes lying around in here? We totally do. And then if we go ahead and place the drawdown here, we can then put a pipe above that, and the functional storage mod actually adds both puller and pusher upgrades. The puller upgrade here is pretty straightforward. We have everything we need. If we put that in, it's going to allow us to pull from whichever direction we specify. Once it's in here, I believe we can then right click to change the direction. You'll see right now it's set to south. We want it set to down like that. And so now it's going to pull from the roost up into the drawer. And then the last thing that we need to do is right click on this bit of the pipe here to extract over into the simple coal generator. And we now have an unlimited fuel setup. We're going to make these lava eggs passively, and going forward, we can look at taking those lava eggs and sending them around to our emerald furnace to fuel this infinitely. And we could also look at using it in our other coal generator as well as an infinite source of power. Now, there are things we can do here to increase the speed at which we get these lava eggs. Specifically, we can look at training our chicken. To train our chicken, as the name suggests, we do need to get a trainer. So the trainer here is a little bit pricey, but now that we have access to blaze rods, it really shouldn't be too difficult for us to make. We need a golden clock, which we can definitely make. We also then need to get an anvil, which should be very doable. Let me get 2 blocks of iron, 1, 2. That should be everything for the anvil. And then the slightly tricky part might be the golden carrots, although I think we already have carrots. We totally do, and we already have gold available to us. And so if we quickly craft those down into gold nuggets, we should be able to very quickly craft up 2 golden carrots, 1 and 2. And then the final piece of the puzzle is just getting 3 of these breeders. These are made with a roost, a chicken, and a chicken stick. I don't know if the chicken stick is used. It looks like it was used in the last craft that we did. So we are going to have to get at least 3 more chicken sticks, which I think should be fairly doable. He says, as we don't have enough chicken sticks here, what is our limiting factor? It's feathers. That should be fine, though, because we do have a few chickens lying around, and we can, of course, kill a few chickens if we need to get more feathers. One thing I probably will do here, though, is take some seeds and do a quick bit of chicken breeding. We'll breed the chickens. Once we've bred them, we'll then use the chicken stick to pick them up, because, of course, we are also going to need 3 chickens for the craft here. And so, real quick, let me breed some chickens. Let's pick the chickens up, and let's see if we can't get some feathers as well. And a few more feathers, and 3 chickens later, we should now be able to make another chicken wrench, and from there we should be able to make the breeders. For that, we just need the roost, which of course is just more slabs, which thankfully is kind of the easiest part of the whole setup. We take some of these, we craft it down, we do one of these. It did put them back in when I shift-clicked it there, that's fine. And then, again, we got to go find the slabs. They're in here. We can then craft up the composters. Boom. And with the composters, we should then be able to make 3 roosts, 1, 2, 3. And from there, we can make ourselves 3 breeders, 1, 2, 3. And from there, we can make the chicken trainer just as soon as we grab our blaze rods out of our backpack. Nice. And so the idea here is that we can place the chicken trainer down, ideally right about there. And in here, we can place our lava chicken, like so, and we have to provide this guy with seeds. So each one of these tier 2 chicken seeds has an XP value of 200, and you'll see here that it says that it needs 2000 XP to level up. So this is a very, very, very slow process. It's going to take 10 cycles of this, so 10 chicken seeds, to level this guy up from level 0 to level 1. And then you'll see that we can go all the way up to level 128. The idea here is that as you level the chicken up, the chicken is going to produce more resources inside of the roost. And so right now, it produces 1 lava egg at a time. If we were to level this guy all the way up to 128, I believe it will produce 64 lava eggs at a time, a full stack of lava eggs. And so it is very, very slow, but it does also give you a ton more resources. And as we move later on into the pack and we start getting things like diamond chickens or netherite chickens or really any crazy late game chickens, getting like a stack of diamonds at a time or a stack of netherite or a stack of draconium at a time is going to be very, very powerful. You can also put in higher tier seeds here. Even though the chicken is only a tier 2 chicken, you can put in, for example, like a tier 3, tier 4, all the way up to tier 9 chicken seeds. The tier 9 chicken seeds have 5000 XP, and so those would level it up almost instantly. But, of course, as you may have expected, these are very expensive. I do think it's possible we could get the tier 3 chicken seeds right away here, and you can also use higher tier chicken seeds on a lower tier chicken. You'll see here that it says tier 2 or higher, so you can use higher tier chicken seeds on a lower tier chicken. That is completely fine. Tier 4 chicken seeds, I think, are a little bit outside of our price range. The tier 3 ones, though, just require a tier 3 chicken soul, which is really just a bunch of power and a few tier 2 chicken seeds, along with some clayed glowstone, which we can make with clay and glowstone, and diamonds, which we, of course, already have. For now, though, I think we are probably fairly safe to leave it at this current level, and you'll see here that already the production of 1 egg per cycle is already more than enough for at least this simple coal generator, and might even be enough to run all 3 of these at the same time, because of course each egg lasts for 100 uses, and that is just an awful lot of smelting and fuel making capacity. In the time it took us to do that, we do now have over 1 million FE in our basic energy cube here, and so we should be able to upgrade our first one of these reinforced brushes to unbreaking. And so if we were to do this and this and this, I'm hopeful that that would upgrade it. Of course, we do need to get our source jar as well, which is currently back at home and is now actually completely full on source. So let me grab this. Let's go ahead and head back through to the world engine. And if I'm not mistaken, we should be able to throw down our source jar, right-click on the source jar, and then right-click on the world engine. And you'll see that that immediately starts to fill that up with source, and that also immediately starts to process the craft. This guy here is almost empty. As soon as this is empty, what I'm also going to do, I'm going to go /home while this finishes its craft. Over here, we have managed to get another 61,000. I guess we'll take that. And we also have actually managed to back up quite a bit on the power inside of this generator as well. You'll see we're actually at almost 1 million here as well. And so that's going to give us all that we need to upgrade another one of these brushes to unbreaking. And at that point, we just need to get 1 more million to take us over the edge for the third and final brush. Back over at the world engine is our first craft complete. It totally is. Fantastic. Let's put in the second one. That's going to immediately drain the power, but of course we have that power ready to go, and we have more than enough source as well to complete all of those crafts. And so, yeah, I guess we're just going to wait until we have enough power to do the third craft, and at that point we should have 3 fully unbreaking brushes that are now just going to last forever inside of our unearthers. Back over here, this guy's at level 4. I'm intrigued to see how many eggs we get from a level 4 chicken here. So real quick, I'm going to take the puller upgrade out just so we get an idea of what we get here. I believe you do get a full stack from 128. That would lead me to believe that we would maybe get half as many items as we have levels. So maybe you have to get to level 4 to get 2 eggs. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but we're going to find out momentarily just how many lava eggs we get from a level 4 chicken. We got 3 lava eggs from our level 4 chicken. That is very interesting. We can go ahead and replace that in there. That's going to go ahead and start producing power again. And so, yeah, like between streams, I might put the chicken back in the chicken trainer so we can kind of get more levels onto this guy. For now, though, I do think that getting 3 at a time, like I said before, 1 at a time might have been enough already. But for now, 3 at a time, I think is definitely enough to keep both of our fuel generators going and potentially allow us to hook up the emerald furnace as well. We just need to do some pipe work. And there we go. Another 1 million RF later, we have our third and final unbreaking brush. And so now if we do one last /home, we can go ahead and place that in here. And now all 3 of these guys are just going to work indefinitely, which is fantastic. And so, like I said, now we could potentially do with, once this backs up, of course, looking at piping some of the excess lava eggs around. For now, we could actually just steal a few of these and place them into here. That's going to do almost 2,000 items worth of smelting, which will hopefully get us through a decent amount of the backlog here and give us a good amount of stuff in this chest. We could also do, of course, with looking at upgrading this stack upgrade to tier 3. I only did a tier 2 before because we didn't have the power for it. Next time, we could maybe look at upgrading our power situation. We do have ultimate power here, but I'm assuming there's better ways for us to generate power. And if we're going to get the superheater here and use that to heat up the world engine for future crafts, I've been told that we need like at least 2,000 redstone flux per tick to make that work. And currently we're producing about 120 redstone flux per tick with our 2 simple coal generators. So there's definitely room for power improvements going forward. And of course, there are also other quests here from the Enchanter and the Wayfinder that we can be working on as well. But all of those are, of course, problems for future Isaac. For now, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this episode of StoneBlock 4 there.